Going on? It's Doug here. Welcome. I'm live now. And it's been a little while since I've done a live stream. I've been taking a break. I've been growing my beard. You know what? I can't really call it a beard. It's more like I just haven't been shaving. And part of the reason is the snow, which I think you saw when I shot the little thumbnail here. But it snowed a few inches out there um, over the last few hours, and it turns out like when you shave, uh, like your face gets colder. It doesn't look like much is going on here, but your face gets cold when you shave. And I don't have any hair on my head either, which is another story. But basically, we got a little snow. So welcome people that are on live. I appreciate that. I wanted to hop on and do a quick live stream for a few things. So number one, it snowed, and we've kind of been lucky for the last few weeks here in Bozeman. There hasn't been that much snow, and I heard it snowed in other places, like all over the country here in the U.S. But yeah, it's been like kind of warm here. But yeah, it snowed overnight. And then I'm going to tell you what else am I going to talk about here? Little link building stuff, which is not the typical link building that you may hear about, but more through outreach. People love link building, so I'll talk about that. And I'll also talk about five-figure niche site, which means like James, my man here, James says, you just signed up for the advanced course. When will you get the login info? I will check on that. James, I think you should have gotten the login info already. However, I was doing some testing over the weekend, and everything tested fine. But a couple weeks ago, I noticed some issues with like being redirected from PayPal. So I will check as soon as we finish here, James. But I'm looking forward to working with you in the five-figure niche site course. By the way, my course is out this week, so enrollment is open. It's open until the end of the day Friday. So if you're interested in getting um, like the framework that I use and many other people use, you should check out the course. There's a link in the description. All Wayne's on, Chris is on, Anime, we have Apace, we got William, Rock as well. Oh, and you saw me, William, on the SEMrush webinar. Okay, so James says the redirect didn't work. Okay, I will take a look at that. Chris, you could take a look for the course, link in the description, five-figure niche site there. All right, I'm going to get into the material here. Today is a little different. A lot of times I do live streams and I just answer questions. And Georgie, well, this is kind of crazy if you could see Georgie. Georgie, get that bird. She jumps like nuts. She's just insane. So a lot of times I hop on and I'll do live streams and I just do random Q&As. And I'll be honest with you. After you do like over 100 of those, you need a break, which is why I haven't been doing them. So you may ask questions here. I may answer them if they're related to what I'm talking about. But if not, I'll probably just answer really short. So it's nothing personal. It's just we're not doing the random bullshit Q&A today. We're just doing tight what I'm going to talk about today and maybe some other things going on here. So, all right. So the link building stuff. Now, typically people get into link building and they're thinking, all right, guest post. They're thinking maybe some private blog networks if you're doing gray hat stuff and that sort of thing. Now, a lot of people don't want to do that sort of link building. So there are other ways. Now, none of these are necessarily easy, but once if you're like, hey, I don't want to intentionally build links, that's cool. One great way is to be a podcast guest. So if you're on someone's podcast, you'll be, in that medium, right? So you'll be in the audio medium, which is great. And then the other cool part is usually they're going to link to your site on their website. So 99% of the time, if there's a podcast, there's also a website. And on that website, typically you can get a link back. Generally, it'll be do follow. If you reference certain material, right? If you reference certain material that is on your site, you can probably have the podcaster link to it. All right. So if you look at podcasts that I've been a guest on, for example, you will find that I give the podcaster a bunch of information, including a bunch of links. All right. So basically, they link to your site. And all Wayne is saying, guest posting is not free, but if you're a guest on a podcast, that's free. They want the material. They want you to talk about whatever it is you're talking about. So that's a free link. The other one, closely related, YouTube. So if you can get on someone's YouTube channel, again, not everyone's going to have like the format where you can easily be a guest, but my channel's a good example because I cover all sorts of stuff, and I'm happy to have people on, and I'm happy to have many videos that don't do well, like on the algorithm. A lot of people don't watch them, all right? But even the videos that people don't watch very much, that still may be like 100 viewers that watch the whole thing, which is a lot for someone, to consume, I guess. Anyway, the point is you could be a guest on YouTube channels, and that'll be a good way to get more exposure. And you potentially would get a link in the description for that video. Now, it's probably going to be a no follow link, but if you actually get traffic through that link, that is going to be a good thing. All right. Next is, network on social. So just in general, let's just use a specific example. So if you could be active in Facebook groups, you potentially could link to whatever your piece of material is. And again, it'll probably be no follow, but you can get traffic through there, and you potentially, would have a link that's valuable because it's a no follow link. However, traffic's coming through it, so you literally get traffic. All right. So those are the three main things I wanted to cover. Just link building. As I was the reason why I'm talking about it is because as I looked through, say, the last 20 videos that I've published on the channel, the ones that reference link building or the lack of link building were the most popular by far. I can look to see the number of views, and I mean, people are just, if you're interested in link building or the lack of link building. Actually, the funny thing is, anytime there's a video that says like no link building or not much link building or anything, like suppressing the importance of link building, people love that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think people don't like building links. So talking about little link building. 5-figure niche site, the course is open. So if you are interested in getting the blueprint, the framework, you can check it out. And I'm going to hop over and look at some of the questions which were related. So James, like I said, as soon as I hop off of here, I'm going to try and figure out why the redirect didn't work. Really sorry about that. And Chris, the link is in the description. Michael says, in the KGR podcast, I mentioned it takes up to a month to do keyword analysis. You found a number of informational keywords using your methods, but you're struggling to find buyers' keywords. Okay, Michael. You put a question mark at the end of that, but I think that's just a statement. So I think your question is, how do you find buying keywords? So typically, I would suggest, if you're really having, actually, let's go the simplest route, the simplest, freest way to do this. Free is just free. There's no freest. So go to Google, and you probably have a couple products in mind, right? So go to Google, type in like best product name for, like FOR, and then see what pops up. Often those are going to be KGR terms. So have a look at those. You'll probably see a list of several of them. Google each one of those terms. You will see related searches listed at the bottom. Look through all of those as well. So if you do that for all the products that you find and then look through all the auto suggests, you'll have a pretty good idea of the keywords that are out there that potentially could be KGR and that are product as well. But you found a bunch of informational ones, and that's great. those are valuable also. And Michael, thank you for listening to the podcast. If people are unaware, last week I launched a podcast, Doug.show, The Doug Show. Check it out. The first episode is I'm publishing it on YouTube as well. So if you're a YouTube person, like you're watching this now, that means you're a YouTube person. They'll also be sort of cross posted, but it'd be great if you subscribed on your podcast app of choice and left a review and all that stuff. All right, Tammy, what's going on? Mohammed says, is the course fee your course fee? There's I'm not going to make a big sales pitch here. So you just follow the link and there's 3 different packages. All right, Victor says you're from Kenya and you love the KGR. Great. Victor says, any suggestions for budget guest post sites? No, I'm not 100% sure what you're asking. If you want to rephrase, Kent says it's warming up in Texas. That's good. And BTO says, okay, we're getting to just random questions, so I'm going to kill it here. I'm going to just answer them really quick. Trademarks, I don't care. I don't trademark any of my stuff. Jill, what's going on? Another fine student in the 5-figure niche site course. And then Bade says, is it important that you find relevant keywords in the KGR, or can you use keyword everywhere as a relevant and one KGR keyword is enough as a main keyword? I don't know. I'm not sure I follow your logic here. So I'm going to ignore your question and then tell you what to do instead. Because I honestly, I don't know what you're talking about. So you find the KGR term, and then you make the keyword phrase the title like 90% of the time, and you write the post on it. That's what you do. So I'm not sure all the other details you were getting at there, and I didn't quite follow. I'm sorry about that. But find the term, title it, write the post. That's it. Super straightforward. I don't know what you're getting at there. Gary says, you posted your first KGR term. You're pumped. Yeah. Hop back on one of the other videos, put a comment in. I'll look out for you, Gary. Let me know how it does. All right, O2, what's going on? We got Julius. And then BTO says, do I check for trademarks before registering the domains? Yeah, potentially if I'm like trying to come up with something brandable, then yeah, I'll check and see. And I try to never use anything that's like a brand name or anything that I know of. As far as any issues, no, I've never had any issues. I usually steer clear. There were some people that I know that like they put, for example, like Amazon in the name, like AmazonBestDeals.com or something like that. Terrible idea, especially a huge company. What'll happen is you'll take some name that's trademarked, or you think you're being smart, not you specifically, but a person thinks they're being smart by picking a name that has some brand recognition, and nothing happens until you start getting traffic. And then at that point, you get a letter from a lawyer or two that says you have to change the name in X amount of time. So, yep. Sorry, I didn't understand your question before. Basically, there's a trademark like search that you could use, and then you can find stuff. All right, cool. I'm going to get out of here before we go off the rails too much. I'll potentially come back and do some more Q&As in the future, especially like the Friday Q&As. But as I mentioned kind of earlier in this, those tend to go off the rails, and then we just end up with like a bunch of questions that basically someone can just go look up. So I'm going to try to figure out a format that works for me, where it's actually valuable. Because actually, we'll just go on a random tangent here because we can do that. YouTube's cool, right? I put out a lot of videos. It's great to get information out, but the way I do YouTube is the growth is very slow, right? There's some other channels that blow up. They're better with delivering a story. They're better with teaching. It's the right length. They have a very active group and stuff like that. And then there's some other YouTubers like myself that basically just, we're just publishing stuff and it's flat. Maybe there's a tiny bit of growth, but it's basically flat. And, I basically make very little to no money from YouTube, and it's far more expensive for me to do YouTube than to just not do it. So after I've played around on the YouTube format, it's fun and everything, but when I look at the ROI and like what I'm getting out of it, it's not much. Like if I worked really hard, the on YouTube, there's like virtually no benefit. So at this point, we're kind of in a steady state and I'm regrouping and I'm looking at the podcast as something more interesting. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be publishing a lot though, but I'm just being a little more strategic about it. Okay. And all right, I see. And I'll answer, the hard part for me is I try to be nice. So I'll answer all the questions, but it's funny because, the world of YouTube is, what's the right way to put it? All the comments and stuff. I mean, there's some great comments that I get. Um, and there's some fantastic emails as well where it's like, hey, I've been following your stuff. I implemented it and I'm making money. I'm able to quit my job. By the way, for the people who do watch a lot of these videos, I caught up recently with Marty, Evan, and Duke. So keep an eye out for those interviews. All those guys are doing great. So before too long, we'll have some updates in those areas. Okay. So Josh says, you're only getting 100 visitors a day. Should you continue scaling the review pages or have your writers turn out more informational blog style content? Well, I don't have enough information to make any sort of anything better than a guess. So I don't know how old your site is. I don't know how much content it is. I don't know basically anything. So you're only getting 100 visitors a day. Should you do more review posts or should you do more informational content? If I just had to give you the safest answer, I would say do 50-50. I would say keep continuing to publish both pieces of content. Informational may rank a little faster, a little better, and may be able to lift your whole site up. So based on that small amount of information, that's what I would say. Chris says, is it true you will rank irrelevant of what keywords you have as long as you have good and long content? I don't think that's true. I think you could find examples to prove and disprove that statement. But I think in general, that is not a good guideline to follow. So you're saying if you have good content and long content, 2,000 words or more, I don't think that's enough. Victor says, do you have to worry about DA and PA with a KGR? Not always, but you should always Google a term before you write the content. So you Google the term, see what the competition's like, see if you could rank for it. And Danish says you watched the KGR tutorial and you're following it. Sweet. Marty, what's going on? Oh, yeah. We're just talking about you, Marty. So, I talked to Marty last week. Things are going well. And Nomadic Yeti, what's going on? Thanks for writing that review for iTunes. I really appreciate that. Josh says, have my sites been holding up? Yep, everything's good. Fingers crossed. And Echo, what's going on? Cool. Well, I'm out of here. We're going to keep it under 20 minutes. Georgie needs to go for a walk. I need to shovel the driveway again. So thanks for hopping on. Don't forget, course is open for this week. And James, I'm going to the email before I do any of the other stuff that I just mentioned. So, all right, cool. Thanks.